Guys, we are in Scottsdale. I'm with Brad from AFT, and we are at Modern Sunset. First and foremost, we're here for the Contractor Coalition Summit, which we're hosting with Morgan from Construction to Style. We got 30 great contractors that just did a home tour of this and a couple other projects. But we wanted to stop and show you guys a little bit about what Brad does and walk through this beautiful project here. It's a hillside, which apparently we give them a lot of flack for. But what does hillside mean here in Scottsdale?
Yeah, so I mean, it's pretty common, especially in Scottsdale. You'll see that we don't have like major mountains, but we do have a lot of hills, and you can see here we're building into the hillside. So these clients purchased, 14 acres of private real estate, which is pretty amazing. It's kind of unique because you drive through this residential neighborhood, pretty unassuming, and then you get to this hillside. And so with hillside, really where it becomes tricky, and where a lot of clients who are building in hillside in Scottsdale, you're thinking about, okay, you're retaining the mountain, right? Mm-hmm. So you have a mountain, so you got to hold that side. Then you have the fall on this side. And so there's just a lot of sequencing that happens with construction. And that's why a lot of clients, they want builders that have done hillside or had experience, one, so you can forecast a proper timeline, and more importantly, cost. Yeah. One thing we deal with is what's called hard digs. So you'll see, especially, we had hard dig on this mountain. So we do soils reports. So we'll come in and some areas come down 30 feet, right, with low test holes and stuff to figure out the soil, and that's where we'll figure out if we have like rock or clay. And that's really important to understand because that helps us identify when we're bringing in equipment, if we have to bring in, a big jackhammer up on the mountain because we're not using dynamite, that can be $400 an hour. I mean, that can be 60 grand, it could be 200 grand, it could be a big number. So there's just a lot of complexities going with hillside, and especially the sequencing when you're looking at landscape, pool, and how we build and do the construction of the home.
Yeah, because when you look around Scottsdale and like when you fly in, there's a lot of, it's flat.
Yeah, a lot of it's flat.
And you
look, you'll see here, I mean, it's flat for a long time.
Yeah, exactly. It's like super flat, and then you have all of these mountains around, and a lot of it is protected, but then you have areas like this that they can buy, like you said, private real estate, and build into the hill.
Yeah, when you're in the valley, I mean, a lot of the valley there's not, but when you're in like Scottsdale, there's a lot of areas of Scottsdale that are hillside, even if it's maybe not as, I don't want to say complicated, but not as high as this one. Sure. There's some that are still bench, a little bit lower, that you still have retaining walls and maybe even tiers of retaining walls. So.
Sure. We came up this 1,000-foot driveway. You're doing a lot of site work.
Yeah, so this one is definitely one of more complicated ones. As you mentioned, you have over three football fields up. And so the staging area was a little bit smaller than most projects. Sure. So we had to figure out, one thing you'll see is we have all these decorative boulders. So we have a substantial amount of decorative boulders that were all designed by our landscape architect. And then we staged those. So we brought a crane in, we're setting each of these boulders. So that had to happen first, right?
Let me pause you there because, what you just said is like we have a smaller staging area than most projects, but on the other side you said 14 acres. So what's important to note here is that there's a lot of protection as to what you can touch, like when you're moving trees, cactus, plantings, and then the boulders. There's, a substantial amount of boulders that you look around and look like they're natural, but they've actually been very specifically designed, and they're actually
brought in place.
And costly, and a lot of that is due to the reconfiguration of the elevation for the home.
I'm glad you brought that up. Something unique about building in the desert is that we have protected desert, like with the saguaros in desert, we can't disturb that area. So when you're building a house, let's say a client buys 2 acres of land, they could probably build on 25% of that. So half acre that we can disturb, which essentially means we put the site fence up, we relocate the saguaros, and any protected vegetation, ocotillos, mesquites, which are some of the plants and trees here, and then we can work within the confines of that area. So the client may have 14 acres, but you're only building on this small little pad. Yeah. And we have the driveway, the easement that's going down. So just logistically figuring out, okay, utilities from the street up to the house. You can't get to the pool. This pool has a huge negative edge off the backside of the house. So the issue here is you can't dig this pool. Where are you going to get all the dirt as you're excavating? Plus, part of this pool is retaining. You can see these retaining walls are holding up part of the property. Yep. So that's why this is one of the first phases of construction that's installed. So this has been installed for, a year and a half now. And then, of course, we would work our way up the mountain. So before we even get to the slab of the house, you're putting in boulders because, again, you can't get a crane over all this. I mean, you probably could, but it's going to be super costly. So. Right. Just the sequence, and this goes back to our conversation, budget's always a factor. So with budget, you have to put these things and make sure you put in the proper order for access.
Yeah, and I think that, generally speaking, that's something that, in residential construction, people need to really focus more time on is the sequencing of construction. And you're talking here about hillside being more complicated, and talking about putting the pool in first. It's like you think about, a lot of you guys are probably watching this thinking like, we put the pool in last with the landscape.
Yeah.
But you can't do that here, or you can, but it becomes way more costly. So you're thinking about the client's budget, but you're also thinking about sequence of construction, when trades should be here.
See, both of you and I have worked in commercial too before residential, and so in commercial you're going to see things that are very, thought out. It's kind of funny how in commercial you're not going to start a skyscraper or a condo project or a hotel or anything unless you have the designs, the specs, the FF&E.
Be fully coordinated.
Yeah, all this stuff's designed. And then residential, we're like, oh yeah, you got a permit, let's start construction. Do you have a designer? I don't know.
Yeah.
Are you getting furniture? I don't know. And so why it's the Wild West, I'm not sure, but by enforcing to have that, I know you and I talk about this, but by having all this stuff early on, you can sequence the project, you can understand it, you can know just the confines of the building envelope and then how you work around that. So super important.
All right, so we've set the stage. Why don't we go into this home? We have a 38-foot opening here, right?
Yeah, so this is all, so again, there's a lot of structural steel. When you're dealing with these big openings, you don't want the deflection of using wood or glue lam. All our exterior walls are masonry with structural steel, and then we have glass galleries that take us to each wing. And part of that is so you create the art of the landscape as your art in the hallway. But with that allows us this almost 40-foot opening, automated multi-slider. So this fully opens. Again, it's indoor-outdoor living. Pretty soon it'll be summer months, so this may not be open as much. But for most of the year, these clients are now doubling their square footage for half the cost because now you're getting all this area and it makes this space really big to entertain.
And that's really climate dependent too.
It's climate dependent, very territorial.
In the Northeast, it would be very difficult to utilize this because it'd be a short span of time. And then when we are dealing with snow and rain, this zero edge is very difficult to deal with.
And there's bugs too in some areas where it's like prohibitive. I mean, in Phoenix, we have kind of one of those unique climates that weather's good. You're usually not getting a ton of mosquitoes in here and bugs. So you can have this open. You see now, like how many bugs you see coming in on this?
I've seen one.
Yeah, and it's just pretty rare. So, I mean, you're pretty fortunate to have that. So it is territory specific. But again, we have another multi-slider on the other side. So in that way, from the barbecue into the kitchen, double island. Again, and we have what's called butterfly roof systems. We have this like V, and the whole reason is the butterfly roof is by intent with the modern design, because the architect's trying to take your eyes to landscape and terrain. So out here, you want to see these amazing views. We have the mountains out in the background, you have all the city lights at night, the sunset, and then from the front door, you have these boulder croppings up on the mountain, and you want to really, catch that visual as you're coming in through the front door.
Yeah, because with a shorter roof line, it would really, you wouldn't get much. You'd really just see that motor court out there, and frankly, that's just not going to be as enticing to look at.
Well, I think what's important is you come, like the great room, again, it's a great entertaining area, but as you come in here, you can see that it was actually laid out, our architect has BIM modeling, so we know he surveys and does the topography, so as you're in the build, he knows exactly where our viewpoints are. So his whole idea was that if I'm standing right here, walking to the master suite through this glass gallery, I want to see the top of that boulder cropping.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So the butterfly roof and where the house was placed was all in consideration. He knew this before, because the one thing is if you start construction, you're like, man, we're cutting off half our view. Well, this was already decided beforehand.
Yeah. Well, that's something to point out, and we talk about this a lot between the podcast and our videos, is the planning that goes into some of these projects. And, there's a lot of discussion about, well, there's things that you see on site that you don't always see in the blueprints, and that's fair. But as, Brad's talking about BIM modeling and rendering and photorealistic rendering and actually modeling the home of this stature, that's technology that's available to us to make sure that these decisions are being made up front, because as I stand here, I get it's cut off, but it's very intentional. Once you step into what the glass gallery, you're seeing that top, where if this roof was flat, it would be cut off. And those are the things that make homes like this really spectacular and intentional.
But think about cost. Like there's an investment to hire a really good qualified architectural firm. This is Cosound Studio here in town. But the value is, one, not only just the views and optimizing the layout of the house. Think about it, it's hot. Like when we're in the middle of summer and you're thinking, where is the house facing? West, southwest, those late afternoons? Do I have covers? Do I have overhangs? Especially where you have this much glass, right? So the whole house is designed. The architects not only can show you the full visuals of everything, but they also, the solstice, so they can show you, here's, if we come through at 2 p.m. on December 24th, here's what it's going to look like at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And then in the summer, July, August, at 4 p.m. when that sun's raging, here's where the shade's going to be, here's the transoms. And they can actually show, like these, What's amazing about the software now, like the shades, how you see here, you can see this on the computer before the house was ever built, and it's just exactly how it is now.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like we've called them sun studies. You know, a lot of our projects, we've designed our homes around that, where it's like, where's the sun going to be throughout, you know, the year?
Yeah.
And how does that interact with our space? And that's a great example of, like, you're seeing the sunlight hit that certain point, but in the winter, that point might be even further in.
Exactly.
And, you know, and those are important things for a number of reasons. And one thing that we're dealing with right now is that we're doing a sun study on an outdoor space that has an outdoor TV, and that TV can't be in the sun.
Yeah.
So they're running it, making sure wherever they put that TV is not going to be.
Yeah, and they can cycle it through the software. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So as we walk our way this way, you know, this is one of those glass galleries.
Yeah, and the whole point is you're bringing the landscape in, right? You'll see that that's kind of the architecture. So the wood ceilings come outdoor and the stone comes outside in.
This is a real, like, you know, obviously different from the,
right,
you know, the stone on the hillside, but it brings in that same material.
Yeah, same material that's on the outside of the house. And then as you come into the master suite, again, what's nice is you have this really clean, again, optimizing the views, right? It's super private. Our clients they're gonna have a gate below. No one has access to this mountain besides them. So they have, you know, the multi-slider coming out here to the hot tub. You can see the steps and hardscape in, which is really convenient for them.
This is really nice because it's a private patio.
Yeah.
Where, you know, it's separate from the more public or shared space.
Yes. Each of the suites have their own private patio, so they can in the morning have coffee or have a drink, and then total privacy as if you're in a hotel and you have your own suite, right?
So Brad, this side of the home is the primary, and the other side it would be the secondary.
Guest.
Yeah.
And the secondary, and then we have a guest casita or like ADU. You know, guest house, and that's going to be independent for, you know, full suite, little kitchenette down there for guests.
Casita is guest house, I've learned.
Nick found that out today.
Yeah, I did.
Then in here, a pocket door again. What's nice about pocket doors, you know, you have these amazing views of the boulder crop, and again, little home office. So if they're working, spouse wants to sleep, again, no worries. And then in the morning, you know, coffee espresso bar we're going to have right here with beverages and stuff. So we have everything here in the morning.
So this is a side note, but the coffee espresso bar in the bedroom, I'm game, but the problem is if I made espresso at the time I woke up, it would wake my wife up, and that just wouldn't fly. So yeah. I'm getting my espresso.
So you just have to go get on the road.
Mine's downstairs.
So as we come in, one neat thing about the primary bathroom here is you can see the way that this was designed is so automated shades from the floor. So now as our client's sitting in the tub, again, it's designed this way so as they have back, you know, their back just relaxing, looking out to the views, especially in the evening. You can raise the shades for privacy as low or as high as you want. So fully
private. And that makes a lot of sense because when you're in there, like you don't want it coming down from the ceiling because then you're blocking everything.
Everything. Whereas it comes up, you can still see visually and keep it, you know, neck down.
And then, of course, on the shower side, you're basically at shoulder height.
You're at shoulder height, so no one can see in, and that driveway, again, starts to dive down, so no one from the outside. And you're in the shower, and you have all these visuals, so it's incredible.
Yeah. To pause you there, that's a real great detail that I think oftentimes goes overlooked, and specifically talking about windows and showers, where it's like you really don't need full glass, but when you have a visual, like just so your eye can see beyond it, it makes the shower feel a lot larger.
There's energy to it, right? But what's nice about
Can I come in here with you?
Yeah, come on in, we'll shower together. So in here, what's nice is you look up, again, it's all designed so that there's no blind spots. When you're standing here showering, you get the full view of everything. You can even see if someone's coming up, but it can have that full privacy. And it's all, again, every shower that we do, you know, we call it whether it's aging in place or, you know, we're going to depress the slab, build a mud pan, and now you have a flush transition.
Yeah, similar to us, but we don't. We typically are building on a basement, so we have, you know, a wood subfloor. Where you guys are doing primarily.
We're doing a permanent slab on grade, primarily. And so if there's a second floor, we do have to consider trusses or, you know, how we're going to depress those. All the sinks are integrated, so again, throughout the entire home, countertop integrated sinks. So as you can see here with wall mount faucet, the vanity wall here stops short, and it's by intent. So it kind of brings you that natural light here. The light goes to the closet. We also have a big window in there.
Rather than being a separate room.
Yeah, rather than being a separate room, it just kind of creates this kind of like hotel suite feel.
Very cool.
And again, our clients are out of state. This is a secondary home, so they kind of want this like resort styles that are here with their family. And now they're at a point in life where kids are coming, grandkids are coming, and so this becomes kind of the meeting area. And that's why the great room is so big, because as they have their kids and grandkids, well, now this is
this every time you walk through it, it's like
pretty wow factor.
Yeah. Especially
at night. If you're up here at night, I mean, it's amazing. So back in here in the powder bath, so you know, this is kind of a little coat closet, but this will be our structural wiring and the brain of the house, you know, for Crestron. with the reedy cabinetry. But here's the sink that you
the
mentioned
sink's
right
really
here.
cool. So, just so she said that this all came out of one slab. Turn the water on. I mean, that's really nice.
Pretty awesome. So yeah, so this is one slab. We have an integrated sink, and then we built this. There's like a pedestal, and then we have this piece here that's fixed in place now. So it's the way it's designed is the water flows down all four sides, and you're washing your hands, and it's a pretty sweet detail.
I mean, for those who are watching, so this is, if I were to pull that out, it looks like a traditionally fabricated sink, and they take this piece of stone and put pedestals or feet on it to allow it to sit down on the base of that sink. So it's high impact, but relatively simple to pull off.
Really simple pull off, because that's all it is. It's just the thing that's like a cutting board almost that you're setting in place.
Exactly.
And then we have this partition, of course, water closet. Again, you have window for privacy. So again, you don't have to put blinds because the water closet's set far enough. You have this partition. So again, that stone's coming on in too. You know, for the client, again, entertaining, you know, you can have the wet bar part of the kitchen. So we have wet bar here, fridge freezer, double island. We didn't want, our designers like, I don't want any outlets. So we designed outlets to be in the cabinetry. So you get this nice, clean backsplash.
When you say in the cabinetry, so I see it here, but is there additional outlets?
Yeah, so in here we have cabinet drawers, and there's going to be...
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so we have right there. So yep, and you see we have the USB, we have outlets, and so...
That's cool.
Yeah, and our inspector was really good. We only had to do a few of them over here on this side. Here's another one right here.
Yep.
And so just super convenient again for the client, so we can keep... This is all laid out, so we have full pieces. We don't have cuts in the backsplash.
So for those that are going to comment saying, "Oh, that would never pass code,"
no, it passes code.
Well, there's plenty of people that are going to say it wouldn't. But this is like you just said. You worked with the inspector to make sure that you were hitting the requirements, and it's a great detail because beautiful stone on the backsplash.
Yeah, the clutter. I mean, you're trying to keep the intent of the design right for the client, and then of course, you know, it's pretty common that with our clients that entertain a lot, you can have what we call a wet island. So the wet island, you know, sink, dishwasher, and then we have our dry island. And this is more staging food. You can see we attached, you know, we have like some angle iron and that comes into the island that supports this little metal seating area so you can kind of sit around.
That's very cool.
Again, coffee maker here, but what's really nice, our second glass gallery, this is off of the garage. So we have a 4-car garage, and as you come in from the garage.
One of the things I'm noticing, everyone has at least a 4-car garage. The last one we toured was 32.
Yeah, it was 32. And then as you come into the laundry room here, you can see that what's really convenient is, again, little area, you know, if they're wrapping gifts and stuff. Plenty of storage here for ironing board and, you know, vacuums, and then of course the towel back here as they're hanging
still,
clothes.
like, you know, a lot of times laundry rooms are tucked in the middle of the home, no natural light. You still get great natural light.
With the corner window, and then this is the dry pantry too. So as you come from the garage, it's very convenient around the corner, staging all the food and everything. That's the laundry, and again, all this can be closed off.
Secondary fridge, right?
Yes, and we do that. It's pretty common. I mean, again, a little different in Boston. We have a little bit more space here, so we can have, you know, 4-car garage, and we can have some extra refrigerator.
We can have 4-car garages.
It's just
they're typically a lot more expensive.
It's just tough. And then, you know, glass gallery, again, this will all be manicured desert. Again, you can see that this is like that V, kind of like the butterfly roof.
So essentially you have your main mass, and then you have your primary wing, and then your guest wing.
Then your guest wing. And this is
bridged.
all masonry. I was mentioning because of the wind shear, we don't have any wood framing. This is all masonry construction. And with structural
steel.
With
the stucco exterior.
And then stucco, With the 2 bedrooms back here, again, each of them have their own deck. You can see we're working on the hardscape and the railing. This one has a really neat little bathroom. But what's cool about this is they know they're going to have grandkids. And one thing when you're staying with grandma and grandpa, mom and dad actually have their bedroom, but now we have pocket doors. So if they want to put a crib, a pack and play, they're going to have little beds for the grandkids. So they can actually put the kids to bed early. If they're out, then they can kind of bed, and they have a kind of separate room. And then we have what's called a shadow box, 1/2-inch plate, foam, 1/2-inch plate. And this is all welded. We have a ton of structural members in here to weld because this is all cantilevered out.
Because on the outside, that's steel as well.
That's steel. If you go outside, it's a steel shadow box.
Right.
And then we'll do the upholstery. So the
thermal,
foam, that's how you get the thermal break, or else this thing would be boiling hot, in the summer.
Or cold in the winter.
Yeah, cold in the winter. For us, it's more hot. But
this is cool because we've stayed at friends' homes, and we've certainly put a crib inside a closet.
Yes, or the bathroom or the closet is very common.
The bathroom's a pain in the ass.
It is a pain because then you can't brush your teeth.
Yeah, you can't brush your teeth. But this is really interesting and just like good forethought.
Yeah, because what they did was it's not even taking up closet space. So as you come in the bathroom, again, we still have a closet, you know, double vanity, fixed window so that natural light, and this is the only other tub. They figured this is the grandkid room, so you of course bathtub for the babies. But it is
the
nice.
floor-mounted windows are really nice too.
Yeah, the floor to ceiling are nice. And then as we come here into the secondary, and you can see we're starting to put in furniture and stuff. In Phoenix, we'll get a C of O for furniture, even though the client's not taking possession yet. We're about a month out from finishing
Sure.
QC, landscape, getting it tidied, but they can move in a lot of their stuff.
It's another second bath.
Yeah, then another bath, again, another suite. This is a walk-in shower, curbless shower. And then, of course, a nice little private area out here. So again, I know we're here middle of the day, but you come at night and it's just amazing. That's why I call it modern sunset, because it's, some modern architecture in the end is amazing sunset. So
that's cool. One of the things I really like is the simplicity of materials and the consistency of it, where it's like you do have that one tile kind of working its way through
the whole house,
the whole house, and then you
wood.
have the wood in the sleeping wings, we'll call it. You have the masonry walls paired with the drywall and very simple painted white, but then you have that that stained white oak that kind of repeats itself room after room, creating that
and
consistency.
The stone, yeah, and all the stones that same stone, and that's the whole design. It kind of creates this like really simple but very clean vibe, very livable and
sweet. Yeah. Well, if you guys don't already follow Brad on YouTube, go check out his channel, because he's shown a lot of behind the scenes of the construction of this project, including some of that hillside work in the beginning, and I'm sure he'll be posting a final video when it's all done.
We will.
Cool, man.
Well, thanks,
Appreciate
Nick.
it.
Yeah, good having you.